I will tell you about what are the list of details that you should mention when you are writing in the examination for the heart lung machine. Okay, so what is an heart lung machine? It's a device used during open heart surgery to support the body during surgical procedures while the heart is stopped. Heart and lung machine is often referred to as pump. Does the as it does the work of the heart and lungs during operation. So it does two things. One is what it has a pump, another one it has a purification, that is, so the pump is called a pump here and the purifier is called oxygenator. Consists of a chamber receives the blood from the body, which is normally responsible for heart's right atrium. This blood is then pumped by the machine through the oxygenator, a function normally responsible for right of the ventricle, and oxygen removes CO2 and adds oxygen, which is normally works for the lungs, and the pump then pumps this newly oxygenated blood back to the body, which is normally the work of the left heart. The heart lung machine is connected to the patient by the series of tubes. Why is it called heart lung machine? Because oxygenator does the function of heart lung, okay, while pump does the function of the heart, okay. Series of tubes that surgical team places at the end of the operation. Surgeon gradually allows the patient heart to resume its function and heart lung machine is removed off. Okay, so if somebody asks what is an heart lung machine, so what it does the function of heart and lung, pumping and purification. Okay, and why is it needed? Because heart and lung are not operatable during open heart surgery, that you should clearly mention. Okay, so six main parts of heart lung machine are cannulae, reservoir, oxygenator, temperature control filter, roller or centrifugal pump. Okay, so if you see to the artery, there are the filters, arterial heat exchanger, arterial pump, and so from heart you take the blood and from coronary sinus. Okay, there is also called a coronary sinus pump. Okay, so these impure blood goes into the receiving reservoir, venous input, and settling reservoir, which receives all accumulated inputs from coronary sinus from the heart, and it enters the settling reservoir. So this is an impure blood, right? So from where the impure blood comes, the impure blood is in the right ventricle, and it goes to the oxygenator for purification. And before going, so coronary artery or the arteries that are going to supply to the arteries of the heart, and the sinus or the blood vessels that is receiving impure blood from the blood from the muscles of the heart. Okay, so oxygenator, what it does after purification, that after adding oxygen it gives to the heat exchanger, and the heat exchanger makes the temperature optimal for the coronary pump to pump it to the coronary artery. Similarly, arterial pump, arterial heat exchanger, and to the filter, finally to the artery, to the rest of the body. Okay, so usual two cannulas. So cannulas are a pipe that are inserted into right side of the heart to collect the returning venous blood. Collected blood is reserved into, so whatever we have said there, it can be listed out here, and shows the functional block diagrams of each and every, and you should write everything sequentially. And what are the various oxygenator available? So need for oxygenator open of the lungs also bypass with the heart, hence the function of the lungs removal of CO2 is done by the oxygenator. And how what is the, in oxygen, 95 to 98% of oxygen, 2 to 5% of level is maintained in the blood. CO2 is required to avoid respiratory alkalosis. For ideal oxygenator, following conditions are required: lower priming volume, as I told. What is the priming volume? Lesser blood in the purification process. Minimum trauma to the blood should not be blood cells should not be killed or put into the substantial pressure. Simple and safe reliable operation, ensure sterilization, no micro embolism or air embolism for the period. So what are the types? Bubble oxygenator, film oxygenators such as foam, screen, blood film over sponge, rotating disc, membrane oxygen, liquid oxygenators. Okay, so this is also one type of membrane to membrane oxygenator. Is also one type of diffusion process. So bubble oxygenation is used for cardiopulmonary bypass. It has been supplanted by the membrane of research to organs and material science. Some of continue to promote the low cost self-sufficiency. And blood is given to the oxygenator for purification. Oxygen is entered into the oxygenator. So the oxygenator, CO2 is removed from the blood through outlet valve. Okay, so this is the functioning. What happens is O2 enters. These are the beads of meshes, the bubbles, and the impure oxygenated blood from the body is given out, while this so the foam and the bubbles in the blood is removed by the beads and meshes present inside the cylinder, and surface of the tension of the bubbles foam is reduced by this suspension. Okay, so it consists of what it consists of? It consists of a vertical cylinder in which oxygen in the form of bubbles is supplied from the bottom. Okay, the impure blood is goes here, and beads and meshes sponges or the CO2 are getting removed, while the pure blood, no, after it is getting oxygenated, enters here and it comes out as a oxygenated blood. So membrane oxygen as a membrane, and O2 is given at the blood goes, O2 is given at one membrane, and CO2 comes out at the other membrane. Okay, and liquid oxygenated, you have two things: deoxygenated blood, liquid with the dissolved oxygen comes here. So there is a diffusion happening in between, so diffuse to and from the blood respectively, and the impure CO2 goes this side, and oxygen blood is having oxygen comes out. Okay, so this is another form of diffusion, as you would have seen in dialysis. Film oxygenators, similarly you will have thin film method of where the impure blood is going oxygenated, while the shaft runs over the around itself. Oxygen goes through one valve, and because no, the running of this disc will no, reduce the capillarity, increase the diffusion. So the O2 goes into the blood, CO2 goes out of the system. Okay, washed out of the system. And needs of blood pump has to be so it should deliver 6 liters of blood per volume, that is the required cardiac output, and it should not produce any trauma to the blood. It should be clean and sterilized. Clotting or formation of foam should not happen. It should not produce any hemolysis, that means death of the blood cells should be avoided. What are the different pulsatile pumps, sterile pumps, peristaltic pumps? So what are the linear action, rotary action, and eccentric action? So linear action is left to right. So when there is a movement from left to right, so the if you see this or see in the linear, the row of fingers are arranged over a flexible tube, like a ratchet kind of a mechanism. So when this ratchet kind of mechanism rotates, there is a linear movement on the there is a linear movement that is on a horizontal plane. Okay, so this is one method. Another method is there is a rotary pump. So input comes here, and that it rotates at a specific speed to deliver 6 liters of blood at an optimal rate. Okay, and this is another type of a pump where the input comes, there is a cylinder shaft, and because of this cylindrical rotation of the pump is the blood is pumped out to the outlet. Okay, so these are some important types of pumps. So you have seen about the different pumps, you have seen about different oxygenator. What is need of pumps? Pump is for doing the function of the heart. What is need of oxygenator? They are doing the functions of the lungs. So you should write each and every, so these all these videos for the unit 3 I am putting is to make you search for answers, and more importantly it is mainly to no, I'm just giving a brief discussion about these systems. Your role is to write full details, and to make the reader understand that the reasons why these pumps and oxygenators even exist. Okay, thank you.